Today is May the 15th, 2020, and it marks 72 years ago since the Nakba, when during the 1948 Palestinian War, an estimated 700,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes. Hundreds of Palestinian towns and villages were depopulated and destroyed.
The Arabic word Nakba means catastrophe or disaster, and for these people it has been. These refugees number several million and are living now in Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, within the West Bank and Gaza. But many families still cling to the keys of their former homes, longing for the right to return.
We have put together this film on Nakba Day as a way of standing in solidarity with these people. This year, during the COVID-19 outbreak, I've heard people in Bethlehem say they feel abandoned, like prisoners behind the huge separation wall that dominates their landscape. I've seen many other distressing images and stories. 72 years later, the Nakba still goes on. The injustices have not stopped.
That's why we wanted to produce this film, to help us lament the displacement and horrors of the past, but also as a call to action to establish peace and justice throughout the region.
The people behind this film are of different faith traditions. We recognize the importance of unity in the face of so much injustice. You will see some powerful and distressing images, hear readings from Holy Scriptures, and can join in with our prayers. We continue to pray for peace and justice as we continue to encourage one another to take action, to turn catastrophe into the restoration of hope on the road to a just peace.
Receive with the fullness of your mercy the hopes and prayers of those who were uprooted, dispossessed, and expelled from their homes during the devastation of the Nakba. Sanctify for Tov Uvracha, for goodness and blessing, the memory of those who were killed in Lydda, in Haifa, in Beisan, in Deir Yassin, and so many other villages and cities throughout Palestine. Shelter beneath Kanfei HaShekhinah, the soft wings of your divine presence, those who still live under military occupation, who dwell in refugee camps, those dispersed throughout the world, still dreaming of return. Help us to face the terrible truth of the Nakba and its ongoing injustice, that we may finally confess our offenses, that we may finally move toward a future of reparation and reconciliation. Le'er ma'alei harachamim, to the one filled with compassion, show us how to understand the pain that compelled our people to inflict such suffering upon another, dispossessing families from their homes in the vain hope of safety and security for our own. Maker of peace, guide us all toward a place of healing and wholeness, that the land may be filled with the sounds of joy and gladness from the river to the sea. V'nomar Amen.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأوفوا بعهد الله إذا عاهدتم ولا تنقضوا الأيمان بعد توكيدها وقد جعلتم الله عليكم كفيلا إن الله يعلم ما تفعلون.
In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Most Merciful. Allah orders justice and good conduct and giving to relatives, and forbids immorality and bad conduct and oppression. He exhorts you so that you may be mindful. Fulfill the covenant of Allah when you pledge, and do not break oaths after their confirmation. A witness over you. Surely Allah knows all that you do.
The Nakba, which began in 1948, continues till this very day. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis have moved onto Palestinian land outside of Israel. This is a grave breach of international law, and now the Israeli government is threatening to annex most of what's left. Meanwhile, life for the Palestinians becomes harsher and harsher. Children are frequently kidnapped from the street, and even from their beds in the middle of the night by the Israeli army. Their alleged crime is usually throwing stones at heavily armed soldiers or at the separation barrier. They are put into military detention. According to Defence of Children International, they're frequently tortured and held in solitary confinement. 99% of them are found guilty in the military courts, and often the only evidence against them is a signed confession written in Hebrew, a language they don't understand. 2,115 Palestinian children have been killed by Israeli soldiers and settlers since the year 2000. House demolitions. Since 1948, Israel has demolished over 100,000 Palestinian homes, according to the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions. Sometimes the father even destroys the house himself because otherwise the army will give him a bill for the demolition. Schools, clinics, animal shelters and wells are also destroyed. Indeed, at least 2 clinics earmarked for treating COVID-19 have been destroyed this year. The Israelis claim they had no planning permission, but under international law, Israel has no right to dictate planning permission on civilian structures, and certainly not to demolish them. Palestinians feel it's just another way to steal their land and make way for new settlements. Olive trees. Since 1948, Israel has destroyed over 1.2 million olive trees, as well as hundreds of thousands of other fruit trees in Palestine. The army has rooted up thousands to construct the illegal separation barrier. Israeli settlers living illegally on stolen Palestinian land often steal the harvest, set fire to the trees, and flood newly planted orchards with sewage. On Easter Sunday this year, according to the Palestine Chronicle, settlers ripped up 350 saplings in a village near Bethlehem. And on the first day of the holy month of Ramadan, settlers chopped down 50 mature trees in a village near the northern town of Nablus. Checkpoints. According to the UN, there were 700 permanent roadblocks within the West Bank in September 2018. Only a handful of checkpoints give access to Israel, so the vast majority are between Palestinian villages and Palestinian towns. They have no relevance whatsoever to Israel's security concerns. People start queuing at 1 or 2 a.m. to try to get to their place of work on time. The checkpoints strangle Palestinian life and their freedom of movement. The checkpoints make it more difficult and often impossible to go to hospital, work, school, university, to celebrate family events, and to access holy places such as the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
From a poem by Warfan Shire called Home. No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark. You only run for the border when you see the whole city running as well. No one leaves home until home is a sweaty voice in your ear saying, leave. Run away from me now. I don't know what I've become, but I know anywhere is safer than here.
It's important to pray. It's important to lament. to feel some of the pain of a people's exile, but this means nothing if we fail to act.
إلى خبز أمي